We had a question from a former smoker who asked, are they eligible for reduced rates, or should they go back to the insurance company if they have quit smoking for a period of time?
The answer is yes and yes. Okay, there are a number of ways to deal with that. If we have a client that bought a smoker rate policy and they have quit smoking for a minimum of 1 year, no carrier will consider you a non-smoker unless you've been non-smoking for at least a year. And the question I've always asked is, well, how do they know that? Well, they're going to ask you, and you have to tell the truth. If you don't, you run the risk of not getting paid. So there's no point in ever lying to an insurance company, because then you're giving them a reason not to pay. But if you have quit for at least a year, you can either go to the carrier you're with and ask for a reduced rate. If they will not give it to you, or they give you a hard time, then there's a free market out there. We can reapply with another company, absolutely. And the rate reduction is significant, assuming that everything else is the same. I did have a guy years ago we sold a smoker policy to, and he called me 10 years later and he says, "Hi Byron, you remember me?" I'm like, "Of course I remember you. I sold the policy myself." And he said, "Well, I have good news and bad news." I said, "What's the good news?" He says, "The good news is I quit smoking and I'm calling to see if I can get my rate reduced on my life insurance." I said, "What's the bad news?" He says, "Well, a couple months ago I was diagnosed with lung cancer and I'm dying." I'm like, "Well, I think you're going to like the smoker rate better than the lung cancer rate, because the carrier does have the right to ask all the other questions to make sure you're still healthy in every other way." So if you were healthy as a smoker and you're now a non-smoker and you're still healthy, yes, absolutely, the rate reduction can be well over half, sometimes more, sometimes 3/4, depending on how soon after. And if you've been out of the woods for 3 to 5 years, then a whole bunch of additional products become available, not just non-smoker discounts, but preferred non-smoker discounts. Once you've been 3 to 5 years out of the woods, from a rate standpoint, it is as if you've never smoked, assuming there are no residual health problems.
Okay.